Hello and welcome to this CodeBuddies.org live code hangout. Today we'll be taking a look at the Godot game engine. I've been following Godot for a while now and have tried a couple of online lessons and tutorials, but I haven't gone very deep into it. So the aim of this live coding session and potentially other follow-up sessions is to learn more about Godot while making a simple 2D point-and-click story game. Essentially, it'll be, I don't know the exact name of the genre, but it's going to show the player a scene with some interactive objects around the scene and the ability to progress from one scene to the next. And hopefully along the way I'll learn some good Godot game architecture, software architecture, as well as how to create perhaps more advanced concepts like an inventory or having some memory of the previous tasks a player has completed, and the ability to freely move through these two-dimensional scenes and revisit them in a non-linear manner where the world will update based on previous actions and completed tasks. There should also be some non-player character with dialogues who make the game story driven. And I will publish the game prototype on GitHub, game engine you call it. So I will have more details about that forthcoming. So again, I'm really new to Godot, so this is just a learning process. I'll be starting with very rudimentary tasks and trying to keep things simple as possible to make it easier to learn. So I think the first place to start is maybe a game menu, like a welcome screen, a root scene, a welcome scene. So I'm thinking for that, a user interface might be the right place to start our point-and-click adventure. So basic background color. This is interesting. It's a control node. Let's see if we can change the background color. Now I'm not sure for a game menu if you need to inherit from control or if you can put a 2D scene and just place like a button, like start. That might be actually a better way to do it. So let me just go back a couple steps here. I'll create a 2D scene. I'll add a child node, a button. And if anyone's following along on YouTube, please feel free to give me any guidance by the comment section. I'm kind of just winging it here. We'll have a basic button. This looks good. And it's going to place it in the upper left-hand corner, I believe. So I can freely position it. There's probably better ways of positioning things. And the text will be Start Adventure. If I wanted to center that line, this is the text alignment. Just check the state. Now, I think there are some containers. For example, I can put a node (2D) container, center container, horizontal box, vertical box. Let's see what this center container does. Keeps children, controls centered. Sounds good. Actually, if I move my button there and expand the center controller to take the full width of the scene, that looks pretty good. I like it. So already we're making progress just by intuition. Now how do I change the layout to take the full rect? Oh, that's layout. No, that's not quite what I was hoping to do. So let's do a search. It's not a big deal. Okay, so Node 2D doesn't have a size. Well, let's go ahead and wish this was a little bit easier to scale down to split screen mode. These aren't resizing very well. It's unfortunate. Now it resizes, but this is the minimum, I suppose. But why does it get bigger here, but not here? Strange. All right, well, let's take this node center and just make it full width manually. So I think we can change the rect size. And what are we looking at? $1020 by 600, I suppose. It's a little bit smaller than that. All right, so we'll save this as a new scene. And I think you create a subfolder called scenes, and this will be main or start menu or something. Main menu. All right, so obviously our scene's not going to do much here, but it does render and show the button, so that's as would be expected. Now, as a default or a simple experiment, let's break this down. I haven't thought of a roadmap or progression in advance, but I think it's natural to go to a new scene when clicking. So I think I might have accidentally resized that. All right, so let's create a new scene. Call it first scene. And for this one, it'll be a 2D scene. And we'll add color, background color, colorful rectangle. White is fine. I'd like to fill the scene. I suppose there should be some way. To do that more precisely than this. Let me check something out. Project settings. What is the width here? If I just search for that property. Config. Let's save search for name. Yeah, that works. Size, width. 1024 by 600. Okay, that makes sense. I don't know why I didn't register that. 1024. Whoops. All right, so let's edit our main menu and just change this again by 600. And when we click this, I'm gonna transition to the next scene. So we need to attach a script. Now that script can live up here at our node 2D, but for now, I suppose I can just attach it here. Okay, so I'm gonna rename this Start Adventure. Start button would actually be better. Start button. Yeah, now save, attach a script, start button GD. Here it's from button. Well, I'll leave it with the default template for now. Alright, so I'm gonna go back to the 2D mode and wanting to go here to node. Somehow I can attach on click or something. Dang it. So if I go back to the script and I look at the documentation for button, I don't remember if it's F12 or what the shortcut is for that. Button has some methods ready. Button pressed. Print hello world. That's great. That's what we're looking for. Let's give that a try. We'll run the scene and watch down here. Alright, that didn't work. We have properties. What are methods? There's this one. Pressed. Okay, so somehow I undid adding my script, so we'll do that again. Start button script. Now when I come back to the scene tree, Oh, interesting. When I click the... That was weird. It seemed like I had focus, but then it wasn't quite focused. Weird. So when the button's pressed, we're gonna connect it on start button pressed. It's gonna create that method for us, and we're gonna print hello. Right. When we run our scene, now we should have some output. So I had to wire the signal but that's working now. Very cool. So now, how do we transition from one scene to the next? Whatever the word would be. Scene transitions, GD Quest. This is a great resource. Yeah, this is all we want to do. Brilliant. I am a subscriber to GD Quest. I highly recommend all of their content, and paying for the content also supports the open source development of all these projects, so it's worth supporting their efforts. All right, cool. So I don't necessarily want to do something fancy just yet. Scene transition rect. This is interesting. So the layout menu of our first scene has a color rect. Look at the 2D. Yeah, I should be able to. Wish that would be a little bit better. It's kind of getting annoying here. Full rect. See, that's weird. It wants me to add a color rect as root, but I have a node 2D as root. I'm not gonna follow that step. This is recent though. Scene tree changed to. Let's try it without the fading transition. So we're gonna get a variable reference to. I find my variables outside, I suppose. Change to, okay. Well, let's just follow this tutorial entirely. Creating a new scene. Scene transition. And we'll use color rec. And we'll full rect. And that worked. Cool. As it would be expected, following the instructions directly. So the node 2D as a base isn't quite going to cut it. Create a new scene, color rect, allow many full rect options. For fading purposes, black as well. That makes sense. Cool. Save that. For the fade animation, An animation player is a child of a scene transition rect, so this would be a scene. Transition rect. Adding animation player. Let's create a new animation. Call it fade. Set the duration to 5 seconds. Where do we set the duration? What was it? 5 seconds? 0.5, half a second. Yeah. So it's completely transparent, then it becomes opaque at the end. Set the alpha value of the modulate property. Keyframe at 0. And then at 0.5, let's see, did they want it to be 0? Alpha 0, alpha 1. So the first, the value should be 0. Okay, I think that's correct. How do we play it? Looks good. I'm going to go ahead and type this so I get more muscle memory that way. I don't know if that's a file type or if that's a helper. But this is going to give us a user interface to select the next scene. On ready. Animation player. And then in the ready. I did name it correctly there. Now it's going to code the actual transition. We want this scene transition rect to fade out completely and load the next scene. So in the function, they're just renaming it. It's not shadow or private. This is really annoying. This is interesting. What that yield is doing. Okay, so doesn't quite explain why they're yielding or what that means, but okay. Change scene. Very cool. So now there are many use cases for this node. Let's say you have a main menu with 3 buttons. Load up different scenes, start, options, credits. Sounds good. You can attach a script to the topmost node and connect each button pressed to signals of callback. Okay, so this is a case where I would need in the main menu a script. Instead of being attached to the button, I would detach the script right there. On ready. Let's see. I need to instantiate that in our main menu. So go to what? Scene transition rect. And that's a little bit of an omission. I suppose I can open the demo scene, but having to instantiate it wasn't quite mentioned there. Main menu, script. So now we have a reference to scene transition rect. How that works, I don't understand. It's like in the 2D view that I can't resize, but when I switch over to script, I can resize that. Little nuances like that, it's like, I don't know. I'm not a game developer, but little things like that, this lack of attention to detail is not quite inspire confidence in this. I'm sure that other game engines and editors are with their quirks as well. All right, so I need to wire up my node pressed, disconnect that one and add a new one in the node 2D on start button pressed. And then we're going to have our transition rect here. Yes, and I know I can open bug reports for these little issues. I will probably get in the habit of that, but right now it's just a bit time consuming. That can be also just off-putting, in particular for new developers that have to go and open issues is kind of maybe not natural. First scene. So I think if I can drag and drop that here, there we go. That's nice. Touch. I'm not trying to be too negative or sound like I'm complaining too much. Let's see what happens there. All right, it did work. The first scene did load. I didn't get the transition effect, so I've probably not done something. Let's go ahead and select the main menu, open that. Start that. It works, but the opacity, so I'm happy that it transitions though. So let's see what I've done wrong here. Probably something with my animation player. Just transition. Did I get my opacity wrong? Let's see, they're doing. Let me make sure that my duration is correct. It'd be nice if I changed the duration to here. It would kind of zoom in to a natural. I understand why these would be independent though. But, okay, so we got scene transition rect. Modulate starts here and ends fully opaque. And that transition does seem to work. All right, so that's a good start. So let me make sure that so when the thing's ready, I mean, that looks nice. I like it. Well, again, I like the simple graphic, the simple aesthetic. All right, so the thing is taking the full rect. I've already verified that. There it is, full rect. All right. This doesn't say checked. That's kind of a bit annoying. Taking action, but it should let me know the state. Maybe. It looks like a checkbox, but it's really a button. Oh no, it's my bad. It's not a checkbox. It looks like one though, but yeah, it's just an. Okay. Color property. Child scene. Scene transition rect. Got it. And all this is working. Duration is 0.5. If I play it, or restart it, play it forward and play it back, 0 to 5. It looks good to me. Add a new. Attaching a script to scene transition rect. Export a string variable with hints to allow us to browse the file system and search for packed scene files. So actually, let me double check this. I'm going to close this first scene out. But if I go to the tree, scene transition rect, Spectre, next scene. Oh, okay, that's interesting. That's handy. Okay, so that worked. And so my main menu. I actually don't want to do that. I mean, basically what I have to end up doing is copying and pasting. Okay, let's just try running it now with the copy and pasted text to see if I introduced an error. No, it still doesn't fade, even with copying and pasting. Copying and pasting. The only thing I can figure is the animation player is not configured correctly. Or my animation name is wrong. Well, I'm not going to fuss with it too much, but it's just a bummer. Capital F. The duration seems to be correct. No. Bummer, dude. canvas layer. Interesting. Bryce. So, color rect. So this is the one where we need to change the scene root, I suppose. Change scene root. So where should I put the create a backup, a new script, inherits from canvas layer, no comments, scene transition GD, and then everything else should be alright. Animation layer is there. Play backwards. That's strange. Let's see if I can find that animation player. Oh yeah, you have to have the full. It's kind of why I didn't want to mess with it. It is missing some details. like it should have introduced the structure of the beginning scene and the next scene. So we no room for error there, and then the fading animation. That's the missing context. And then introducing and mentioning that you need to import it, because that's another bit. So this article could definitely use some improvement. Okay, so there is. That's what I'll have to start to get in the habit of. Okay, one moment. Correct. Onto a canvas layer. My main node was node 2D. Sorry, where am I using this node 2D? Let's just get another look here. Right here. So the scene transition, right? Yeah, so node 2D and here's from canvas item. So this also needs to be inheriting. All right, good. So what might have happened now is my listeners and start button unpressed. So this is correct. That's there. That works. Let's see if this gets invoked correctly. Guys, I'm gonna be new scene. I can type. That's fine. Scene transition.gd. I mean, that's okay. I don't. Well, this is really all I needed the whole time. I don't understand. I don't want a breakpoint there. All right. Huh, I thought I had said that earlier. Okay. So, and that could also be the paint order, which I believe needs to be above everything. All right, so there we go. Mouse events for clicking a button. Ah, this is such a mess. Here it goes, it works. Oh my goodness. Yeah. What can I change? I don't know. I'm not in the mindset right now. I'll think about that. All right, so we have a game. Start the adventure. Fades to the next scene. Oh my goodness. That's cool. I mean, it's a good tutorial. It's just missing some critical context. And it stumps, this is intended for new developers unfamiliar with Godot, so it's really stumping. And where do you, and so this, I believe, comes from this Node Essentials course, which is a early access course. And thankfully, they're publishing this particular tutorial openly as a Creative Commons license. Yeah, and it would be nice even if they walked through, creating these nice buttons and stuff. And I'm sure there's other tutorials to make the buttons a little bit nicer. So let's continue though a little bit more. Where are we at? Well, we're about 1 hour into the scene. I think that's a good stopping point probably. So it zooms. Hold shift, it still zooms, control still zooms, zoom. And that would be nice if it control shifted and would move, pan, or scroll vertically or horizontally. I think that's very conventional in other software. There's probably some kind of keyboard shortcut for that. So let's delete this. Move that to trash. This is also a little bit problematic that when you have a script attached, it covers up the hide icon. Good grief. Because I just want to hide this. Right now the opacity is blocking me from editing other parts of the scene. Hide. Oh, you can make it scenery. That's cool. Some of these are a little bit frustrating. These little nuances, like how do I hide? Just let's see. It's fully opaque right now. So I can delete it real quick. It's weird. Where'd my okay? So the start button's hidden, but yeah, no. Ah, the scene continues. Here we go. Okay, grief. Like I still want to make some edits to the buttons, but I can't because it's. Now I can. Oh, you can't just simply hide that. I mean, this is not really worth it. All right, let's see if this works. That's all I wanted the whole time. Went through a little bit of a detour with this tutorial. It's a cool tutorial. I still like Godot, but it was overkill and too problematic. Introduced too much complexity at this point and weird bugs that I just am not enough. I'm not familiar enough with Godot to debug those, like the canvas layer overlaying. I want to be able to edit this menu and yeah. I'm not sure how I can improve this documentation without introducing the same kind of bugs I had with the visibility there. So let's just keep it simple. That's not doing anything, so we'll delete that. And we'll do a recap. It's been all right. I'm just feeling a little frustrated, but no worries. I will mention that this is a good tutorial with the caveat that it's missing some context. Cool. Hello and welcome to the recap of today's CodeBuddies.org live code hangout. I've been working on a new project, learning the Godot engine today, trying to create a point and click game where essentially you get you present the player with a scene with some interactive objects and perhaps some narrative, and they can click around in the scene and transition between different scenes. And it's very basic concept, just enough to learn Godot engine. So as a start, I've created an initial scene called main menu. And that scene has one center container and a button. So that way the button is directly in the middle of the scene. I've attached a script that extends from the node 2D, and it wires an event listener that gets a reference to a new scene here, which is just a white canvas, basically, node 2D with a color rect. And it changes to that scene. The code you saw just a moment ago was an attempt at following a scene transitions tutorial on GDQuest. GDQuest is a really remarkable resource, and I'm definitely a paid subscriber. I want to support their work. And all of their work is open source or Creative Commons license in a lot of cases. So this is a really valuable initiative. I was able to get this tutorial to work. I followed it exactly and encountered an issue where the fading animation wasn't playing. It was transitioning scenes. And apparently other people have experienced the same problem. And it has to do with the basic scene being a node, which inherits from canvas. And so for some reason you have to, in order for the animation to work, this animation player, the scene transition, has to be also within a node 2D. At this point in my learning journey, I'm not familiar enough with Godot to quite understand this, and I think a lot of people reading GDQuest tutorials are going to be in a similar situation. I was able to get the sort of transition to work correctly by, fiddling around and adding a canvas area, but the issue then cropped up that I couldn't edit the menu. The canvas area, no matter where I put it in the scene tree, was just rendering on top of this whole scene. I couldn't change the visibility. Like the show and hide buttons were missing because it was an instant scene. It was just kind of frustrating. I think there's a little bit of issues with Godot not letting me show and hide child scenes that are instanced into the scene tree. I think that would be a desirable feature. It would be consistent with the other nodes that get instanced into the scene tree. But also was some crucial missing context in this tutorial. The tutorial focuses, there's three main parts. There's a beginning scene with the buttons here, a transition in between them, which is the fading, and then a second scene, which is the one that only shows the previous scene button. It doesn't show you, the tutorial doesn't tell you how to create the beginning scene or the ending scene. It only focuses on the transition. And as such, it leaves some room for error in creating the beginning scene and ending scene, particularly that Godot often will suggest that you create it in Node 2D or it's a natural way, particularly in my case, or specifically in my case where I want to position some controls. I probably don't have to have my scene inherit from Node at the base, and things would have worked. If this tutorial would have included the scenes, it would have smoothed over my experience, and I think these other people who are experiencing the same problem wouldn't be facing the same confusion. It's a really great idea, great transition. I like it, it's elegant, and I hope to revisit it. But for the purposes of this project, I just removed all that code and ended up with a basic menu, and when you click it, it just jumps to the next scene. So it's not as elegant, not as smooth. I'm just trying to do things a little bit at a time as I kind of grow at the edges of my understanding of the Godot engine, game development in general. So overall, frustrations aside, I think it's been a good experience, and I'm looking forward to following more GD Quest tutorials. And again, I've subscribed to their courses. I think are just excellent, so I highly recommend if you've got the means to support their work, either financially or even on GitHub. Their code is open source, so if you have some time, and I'll look into in the future ways that I can contribute directly to the documentation and potentially the code. But at this point, I'm just learning, and I've got to put one foot forward and continue my learning journey before I get to the level of comfort, I think, where I could improve this tutorial in a significant way. Okay, well, that's been a recap of today's CodeBuddies.org live code hangout. Sorry if I was a little bit rambly, a little bit confused based on my experience here, but overall, again, I do enjoy working with the Godot and hope to see you around more live coding sessions here on CodeBuddies.org.